That sort of was hard to say.
Appointment only.
Here's a favourite old bush song, and we'd like you all to sing along.
The old gum tree.
Welcome to the Thunder Down Under. The All-Aussie Alternative and Metal Music Showcase.
Fly a flag on your aerial.
And how about your host, eh? Kane Vella Fella. G'day guys, Kane Vella Fella here again with another 2.5 hour jam-packed episode of The Thunder Down Under. A couple of months back, I had the great joy of hanging out with Death by Carrot, a psychedelic stoner rock group comprised of members hailing from Brisbane. So I'm going to be featuring an interview with those guys, weaving it in and throughout the show as per usual. Stand by also, guys. We're going to randomly announce this month's winner of our random listeners prize draw. It could be you, so tune in. Let's kick into the groove, shall we? This is Death by Carrot. No free radicals. You're on The Thunder Down Under. Front Row Radio.
your boy Jeff T, and I'm listening to Thunder Down Under with Kane Vella Fella, right here on Front Row Radio.
No time for the blues, being happy, what a drag. by Carrot, and we are a touring act from Australia. And I suppose I'd say we're from the whole place, really. I'm sitting here. My name is Casey, and I'm sitting here with Cosmic here.
Howdy.
What would you say, Cosmic?
We all met in Brisbane. So
some of us. Did we all meet in Brisbane? Well, we got Carrots everywhere, but most of us.
We all met.
We're all from Brisbane.
I love that term.
We all, to some degree, met in Brisbane.
So you'd say you're mostly based in Brisbane?
I'd say we're based out of Gina.
Out of Gina, yeah.
I think that's really the answer.
So tell me about Gina.
Well, Gina is a beautiful entity.
Yeah.
2009 VM Ford Transit.
To be exact.
Yeah, she's like a rolling temple.
Yep.
Medium wheelbase.
Yeah.
And we spend like 10, 11 months out of the year going around continent and just sort of doing the infinity loop, going around circles. So
you talk about the infinity loop.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so that's sort of the journey, as musicians. I think, Death by Carrot is a project, and I think everybody who gets involved on some core level does it because the journey is important, like not just like how you spend your time. And so we just kind of try to create a really holistic system of, showing up and delivering riffs in an equitable fashion, like across the whole space that we have access to. And we're looking to expand on that, like doing some stuff overseas and of course always looking to add to it. But right now the Infinity Loop has been for the last 5 years and 500,000 kilometers, I'd say.
All around Australia.
No, we're 465,000 kilometers right now.
Yeah. But who's counting?
Who's counting? Around Australia, and we're looking, like Tasmania. We're here right now with you in person doing this one, which is great. It's been lovely being here in Tasmania, and it's so unique. We did the Infinity Loop for like 2-3 years before we were able to figure out the logistics of how to incorporate Tasmania into the picture.
Until you met Gina, which obviously made things a lot more viable. And,
yeah. On the mainland, but like we've been learning about flight mode just coming here to Tassie, but of course not having Gina with us is a little bit different. But we're looking to add in some other places in Asia and Europe and Africa, and all over really.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Yeah, basically in a nutshell, some Carrots from Brisbane, obviously an evolving lineup, an evolving circuit, Australian based at the moment, and looking to obviously expand further into the cosmos, if we could use that as a term.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Smoke don't rise, fuel don't burn, sun don't shine no more. Late one night, sorrow come round, scratching at my door. But I cut my hands and break my back, dragging this bag of stones till they bury me down beneath the ground with the dust and rattle and bone. Left my home and left my love caught on a rusty nail. Devil rose up heavy with gold. My soul's not for sale. the ground with the dust and rattle and bone.
So some of you might have recognized the vocal work there. That was, of course, Casey Chambers partnered up with her now ex-partner, Shane Nicholson. Look, guys, both of those guys on their own don't really do much for me. However, together, their vocal harmonizing and their diversity in their music has, in my opinion, produced some of their best music yet. That track was called Rattlin' Bones, and that's named after the album, great album from start to finish, called Rattling Bones. That was their first album they released together, all the way back in 2008. And before that, we had a Brisbane-based collective by the name of the Immaculate Crows with their track, Happy. Second up in that segment, we had a track by none other than Xavier Rudd. That was one of his latest releases from his Freedom Sessions, released in March 2024. That is a track from a two-part epic. That was part one of World Order. And we kicked the show off, guys, with our featured band of the show, Death by Carrot. And here's a bit of their story. Welcome to the Carrot Patch. We are a community of humans who sincerely feel the dumbest way to die is death by carrot. So instead, we celebrate riffs. We roll around Australia in Gina, our Ford Transit, gathering folks and delivering riff-oriented storytelling experiences from coast to coast. Sonically, some call it deep psychonautic grooves descending from the Black Sabbath / Pink Floyd branch of the rock and roll tree. We call it stoner rock. Traveling by road reveals a country's essence and true spirit. It connects communities like the Mycelium Network connects the forest. On the road, we've learnt that country is spirit, with its own body, rhythms, and complex systems. Our Australian Infinity Loop aims to be symbiotic with those systems and raise the riffs in every one of its energy centers. As the bee pollinates in Gina, we gather alternative culture everywhere and share it down the highway. Everyone is welcome at our events. All ages venues are prioritized, and where licensing prohibits youth from attending, we aim for a skate park. Often, our events bring together multiple mediums. For example, our ongoing Mixed Spice event in Adelaide hosts live art battles, indie market stalls, bands, screen printers, jugglers, and on-site tattooing. There's an interesting event, guys. If you're in the Adelaide area, check it out. Also, they've got their Creative Flow in Grafton Raps. Skaters, rappers, graffiti, sculptors, and DJs. One to look out for in and around Grafton. And they've got their Dope Rip Fest in Canberra, which had fire twirlers, pink performers, a nun. The list goes on. Sounds very eclectic. They also offer riff workshops and have experience working with neurodivergent folks and children. Living on the road, we cover hundreds of kilometers daily, carrying forward the torch of our road dog ancestors like AC/DC, Grateful Dead, and Slim Dusty, who packed their lives into a vehicle and performed far and wide across Australia's vast plains. We live out of backpacks. Our kitchen is a trailer tool chest. Our office is the open road, and we hand screen our merchandise anywhere. Shout out to Justin at BSA for the screen printing lessons and gear. Well, they make their own merch whilst on the go, guys. Pretty cool stuff. A very talented bunch with a beautiful ethos. These guys are an absolute joy to hang out with for a week while we meandered about and immersed ourselves in the beauty of Tasmania. Also had the great pleasure of watching those guys perform live whilst they were over here. They played at both Mona in the Gardens and at the Bush Inn in New Norfolk, which was a lovely little intimate setting made for a beautiful gig. These guys are pretty dynamic and they pretty much tailor their sound to the venue and the audience. That was their track, No Free Radicals, Death by Carrot, guys. Keep listening in as we listen to more of their story throughout the show.
Hey, come on, babe. You know I need you to stay. You rock the night. You know Rocky's right. Go grab a drink for tonight. We don't think it's with the band. Let them take it from your head. All we need is each other, if only tonight. Rest your head on my shoulder, make me feel alright, alright. I go to you, you know who I choose. You take my hand, you whisper your plan. Can you wait, or is it all too late? Chords, they ring out with the crowd. You shout. All we need is each other, if only tonight. Rest your head on my shoulder, make me feel alright. This night is ours, if only tonight. Come on, follow me down, make me feel alright. Tonight, oh tonight, make me feel alright. Make me feel alright. All we need is each other, if only tonight. Rest your head on my shoulder, make me feel alright. This night is ours, if only tonight. Come on, follow me down, make me feel alright. Tonight, oh tonight, make me feel alright.
There's an election on in Flinders, and I know who I will back. It's a hard-working man called Carter, helps anyone on the track.
You know, I've had to lock my door on numerous occasions with female staff trying to get at me and take advantage of me. And, you know, over the years, lucky I've been a man of very strong moral fibre, or I could have been led astray.
What,
So
hang on, Bob,
I need this
I'm a single
protection.
man here. I need some tips. What are your tips?
Mate, just lock the door.
I'm a Martian astronaut, Mr. Acting Speaker, I can assure you.
The Thunder Down Under.
Cover up the cost with a frown, but it's alright. Call you from the wrong side of town, all to make a break from the crowd. Waste of time. Needle and a thread for a crown. Sell it how it is in denial and stick my eye. See you as the sun setting down, turning on the old carousel, round in style. Couldn't be caught up in the crossfire. Shouldn't have thought outside the box now. Couldn't be caught up in the crossfire. Wouldn't have thought to blind the truth though somehow. Tell me now to just settle down, only for a chance to be found to justify. Hard to celebrate all around. Wait another turn underground to say goodbye. Guilt to keep us all getting out. Fear the unknown when in doubt, but it's so fine. Couldn't be caught up in the crossfire. Shouldn't have thought outside the box now. Couldn't be caught up in the crossfire. Wouldn't have thought to blind the truth though somehow. All our secrets are coming out. Now I'm sleepless, so tell me now, 'cause I want out tonight. Bottom feeders are hiding out. Now I'm speechless, so tell me now, 'cause I want out tonight. Yeah, my senses are crying out. Hearts in pieces, so tell me now, 'cause I want out tonight. 'Cause I want out tonight. 'Cause I want out tonight. Caught me at a loss when I'm down. Cover up the cost with a frown, but it's alright. I couldn't be caught up in the crossfire. Shouldn't have thought outside the box now. Couldn't be caught up in the crossfire. I wouldn't have thought to blind the truth though somehow. Couldn't be caught up crossfire. Wouldn't have thought to find the truth though I desire.
Oh, well, you can't sleep in my bed no more. You can't ride in my car. I won't let you good for me, baby. It's never gonna get that far. I'm gonna send you back to wherever the hell it was you came. And then I'm gonna get this tattoo changed to another girl's name. Oh, it ain't no fun no more. I don't know what to say. you can't borrow my shirts no more. You can't make love to me. I hope don't be your dick no more. It's the way it's gonna be. I should've left you, baby, back in that last town. 'Cause the kind of fool you made me, girl, I'll never live it down. Oh, it ain't no fun no more. I don't know what to say. Your honeymoon is over, baby. It's never gonna be that way again. Sleep in my bed no more. You can't ride in my car. I won't let you cook for me, baby. It's never gonna get that far. I'm gonna send you back to wherever the hell it was you came. And then I'm gonna get this tattoo changed to another girl's name. Oh, it ain't no fun no more. I don't know what to say. Your honeymoon is over, baby. It's never gonna be that way.
Kicking that segment off, guys, we had a band from Adelaide, classic rockers, Trick Shot, with their track Make You Feel Alright. And while we were on that vibe, I followed that up with an old classic Powderfinger track, Pick You Up. And we slipped on over to Victoria with a very Alice in Chains vibe. That was Cicada Stone in the Crossfire. And finishing up that segment, of course, a classic from The Cruel Sea, The Honeymoon Is Over, baby. And while we're on the Aussie icons in alternative, this one is the great Nick Cave with his project Grinder Man, Man in the Moon. You're listening to The Thunder Down Under on Front Row Radio.
My daddy was an astronaut. That's what I was often taught. My daddy went away too soon. Now he's living on the moon. Hang on to me, people, we're going down. Down among the fishes in an absence of sound. It's the presence of distance and it's floating in time. It's like and it's longing, and it's not very kind. Sitting there scratching in this rented room, scratching and a tapping to the man in the moon. About all the things that I've been told. My daddy was an astronaut.
contemplating suicide, but it really doesn't suit my style. So I think I'll just act bored instead and contain the blood I would have shed. She makes me feel so ill at ease, and my heart is really on its knees, but I keep a poker face so well that even mother couldn't tell. But my baby's so vain, she is almost a mirror, and the sound of her name sends a permanent shiver down my spine, down my I keep a photograph against my heart, for in my life she plays a starring part. All alcohol and cigarettes, there is no room for cheap regret. She makes me feel so ill at ease. My heart is really on its knees, and I keep a poker face so well that even mother couldn't tell. But my baby's so vain that she is almost a mirror, and the sound of her name sends a permanent shiver down my spine, down my Aussie! Aussie! Aussie!
Oi, oi, oi! Well, 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 look who it is. It's Mark.
Lizzie.
Adzilla, the OG3 of Aussie punk band.
Kathleen Turner Overdrive. And you're listening to
The Thunder Down Under
on Front Row Radio.
Radio.
You're coming for me now. Fist like fast. You stink of the grog. We gotta get out of here. Legal backyard abortion. A teenage girl. Prison door slam. And we're gonna get
A groovy track there from Kathleen Turner, Overdrive, the femme-fronted four-piece from Toowoomba. That was their third single just released, Love at the End of the Line, from their upcoming album, A Safe Space for Cryptids. That's due for release on August 15th, guys. Keep an ear out for that one if you like that track, and check out their discography. Third in the set, we had a classic by the Boys Next Door. That was Shiver. And I popped in another banger from the great Nick Cave. That track was Man in the Moon by Grinder Man. Second up in that segment, guys, we had Kitchen Witch, the desert rock outfit from South Australia. That track was titled Glitch.
Favorite Australian beer? It really depends on where you are. And we always go for the local stuff, but we've had the pleasure of, supporting and being collaborators with a lot of small breweries around Australia. Every single one of the places that we work with has its own really special thing to offer. But of course, we're so close to being up near Woolshed. That one comes to mind right away.
Woolshed's incredible.
we're near the Murray.
They use all local farmed ingredients, and they collaborate with local artists to do their artwork and natural preservatives. So you don't. It feels good to wake up the next day.
Like there's always the right time for Coopers as well. So
Coopers is a nice constant.
no shade on.
It's always there. It's always available.
Big boys,
Part of the ritual to have an emu as soon as you cross the Nullarbor.
That's right. You know, you just do.
An emu. Yeah.
Get to Kununurra.
Bush chook.
Get to Kununurra, have an emu.
Bush chook.
The list kind of goes on. So it's a bit like when in Rome, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's again going back to the ethos of what we're doing is like we're actually taking the time to figure out like what it is that's happening on the ground, like, you know, at least figuring out how to like sort of sit with folks and create space and to be a part of this ongoing thing. Again, it goes back to the idea of the infinity loop.
Yeah.
You know? We've had some amazing brewery collaboration, and we're still, you know, tossing around ideas of even like doing like a collaborative drink and things like this. You know, the reality is that we prefer like a herbal tea backstage, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kombucha.
Yeah.
Something of the sort. Again,
Bone broth.
You know, like no shade on what the breweries are doing, because like again, there's space for that in our culture, and it's a beautiful thing, the environment they create. And I do really love the breweries that do also get really creative. We've been to a brewery like the one that comes to mind in Western Australia.
Oh, Beer Farm's great.
Beer Farm.
Okay. Yep.
You know, they're out in Margaret River, and for example, they had the idea to serve kombucha that they do, and it's amazing. You know, and it's really nice for those moments where you're the DD and you're driving your crew. Yeah. And you don't want to just be on tap water or whatever.
It's
you
nice.
don't want to kill yourself with like sugars and like weird whatever filler.
It's good that they actually consider that clientele as well, because that's being all inclusive.
Yeah.
Which is a nice ethos as well for a brewery.
And it's good for your gut.
Yeah.
Shout out to venues that have kombucha and coconut water and herbal teas and also serve food.
Yeah.
That's dope.
When it all falls to pieces, there'll be nothing left to see. Same story repeated, chaos and piracy. If you refuse to play, they send the boys to your front door. Throw those thoughts away, you won't need them anymore. Your saints have gone MIA. They're on holiday. Time to tear down those names. 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 There's been a change in the weather. We're witnessing history. Throwing thieves in the river. Banishing bigotry. So refuse to play. See what the boys have got in store. They're coming anyway. We can't turn back anymore. Your saints have gone MIA. That was yesterday. Time to tear down those names. Time to tear down those names. Time to tear down those names. Time to tear down those names.
Ladies, it's always important when you jump off a waterfall, cross your legs. Otherwise, up you gusset.
The Thunder Down Under. Righto, we kicked that segment off with a Tasmanian-based band, alt rockers Vertically, with a single from their latest album, The Echo, which is now available on all streaming platforms. That track was titled Home. Those guys have announced an Australian tour in light of that new release. They are playing in Launceston, Adelaide, Ballarat, Sydney, Newcastle, Gosford, Brisbane, Hobart and Melbourne throughout November and December of this year. Look out for their specific dates online, guys, if you're interested in that. Probably, in my opinion, one of the most versatile bands that have come out of Tasmania, and I'm looking forward to catching those guys live when they play here in Launceston on Saturday, November 5th at the Australian Italian Club. Second in the segment, we had the mighty She-Had with their track Tear Down Those Names from their Old Gods album, which is quite new in their discography. Definitely worth checking out. They come in with some fat riffage, some of the heaviest material yet. Then we had The War for Rock and Roll by Queensland rock and rollers, the Brazilians. Let's face it, Rock and roll has been under attack for many years now. Noise laws, poker machines, laws of gentrification of venues, beer taxes, the soaring price of tattoos and spandex, etc., etc. It's a battlefield out there. Time to fight back with the release of the Brazilians' new single, The War for Rock and Roll. The Brazilians were born in the pubs nestled amongst the Mulgrave Delta cane fields of deep far north Queensland. The band got their start playing loud and proud. The twin guitar attack of McAlpine and Williams competing against the industrial din of the Gordonvale Sugar Mill pumping 24/7 across the road from their gigs. Having the mill in the same town as 4 pubs meant noise complaints were unlikely. They got to turn up their Marshall amps as loud as they wanted. A couple of comments here about the band. The Brazilians rock, has a great tough swagger. That one was from Ray Ahn. The Hard-Ons, blending the lyrical wit and wisdom of Super Suckers and the musical chops of AC/DC, getting their blues on. Dave Franklin, dancing about architecture. This is clearly one of those songs that needs to be cranked to 11 to be truly appreciated. That one's from Nechi Anel of Triple J Roots and All on Rise Up. You'll find that single, guys, on all the major streaming platforms. Go check them out, the Brazilians. And while we're on the rock and roll theme, guys, Grinspoon to finish that segment off, their track, Bolt Cutter.
How you going, everyone? This is Brendan from Tungsten. Big shout out to Kane. We'll be listening to Thunder Down Under on Front Row Radio.
Never slowing down to fake takes you under.
Yes. So what makes our music unique is the question. Well, they're stories from the experience itself. And the experience itself is,
real.
It's really happening.
Yeah.
It's very improvisational to an extent, what we do.
Yeah.
And we end up in situations frequently that are unpredictable because of the way that we live. So, I think the only way to really get involved is to just kind of, it's about the people on the road. It's about the listeners who share in the journey with us. It's all like tied into this loop. You know what I mean? So people say like, I sort of not jokingly, like seriously, but sort of like, because you sign up for your Facebook page, you're supposed to sign up and say that it's what is it? You're a musician. You know what I mean? Like they have all these categories.
Yeah.
But when we signed up the Facebook page, when I initially sat down to do it, I was like, well, what's the intention here? And so it was more about building a community. So that's how we labeled the page to begin with, is a community. And that, I think when it comes to music, that's what it takes to write a song. It takes the inspiration of like all these humans and all their uniquenesses, and all these circumstances that we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
So I think that's the uniqueness of it anyhow.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I had the pleasure of watching you guys play just recently at Mona in the beautiful open theatre. And, 3-piece got up there, and the curating in between the tracks as well. Yeah. When you kind of like segue into the next track, it's really cool how you're letting the audience know about your adventures, your travels, and kind of like this is how you guys dealt with it. A lot of quite interesting things you have experienced throughout, of course.
Like speaking as like a guitar player, and Casey's sitting there introducing the story. In my head, I'm actually like there in that moment.
Yeah, you can see.
Imagining what he's talking about.
And you're building into it, and the riffage,
all the vibes kind of come
solemn,
from that place.
It starts to get a bit heavier, and you can really see that you guys are portraying exactly through your music your life experiences.
It's like a shared space of mutual really understanding.
Well, it helps to also share in the experience along the way too. Yeah. And that's going back to the uniqueness factor. That's a part of it because we're so deep in the trench, like you get the context. So if I'm talking about the sunset over the desert and you don't have that sort of like shared experience of having sat through that and to have a context of what that is, it's much harder to be able to talk about the colors in that sky. And then you have to be like, well, no, it was purple. And then like, well, what kind of purple? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it becomes but like if you calibrate to the experience itself, then it creates a more symphonic response, with the entire crew, anybody who's involved. Yeah. And like, it's amazing.
And almost everyone can relate in some way, to the things you're talking about, the experiences that you guys are writing about.
Yeah.
It puts things into like a relative perspective for the audience, which is
I feel like recently we had this happen where the story sort of unfolded in a way that we couldn't have imagined. But I'm sure Cosmic remembers this. We were in a place called the Duke of Enmore in Sydney. Mm-hmm. And we're in the middle of the set, and oftentimes I'll invite folks that are in the crowd, invite them onto stage for an improvisational section. You know what I mean? And we didn't know who was going to be there. And of course, when the invitation went out, somebody responded, came on stage. He grabs the mic and he starts talking. He goes, "Hey, do you remember when? Did you remember the one I'm talking about, Cosmic?"
Yeah, so maybe 4 years ago or something, back when the Duke of Enmore, if anyone knows the Duke of Enmore, when Frankie's Pizza got shut down because they were doing some metro upgrade in the Sydney CBD.
Yeah,
it's like one of Sydney's most dope venues.
Yeah,
got shut down, so they kind of moved their energy to the Duke of Enmore.
Yeah,
and they first started with their stage opposite to where it is now in a glass corner.
Yeah,
and we were playing in this 4 dudes had just rocked up. They'd just been at a rehearsal together.
Mm-hmm.
And the opening act for the night had dropped out.
Wow.
Luckily, they came and they were like, "Hey, we'll get up on stage." And they got up and did a 30-minute set.
Yeah.
And it was their first ever live gig.
That's cool.
And so fast forward 4 years the other day, Casey's like, "Do we have any rappers or anything?" And this guy jumps up and he's like, 4 years ago, you gave me my first gig. Starts singing. It was like,
how cool is that?
Such a return moment.
Yeah. That
we all experienced that together.
Evokes a fair bit of reflection, doesn't it? All of a sudden.
Yeah, like, and you never know how much a vibration will be received, you know? So we really take it upon ourselves to try to step on to any stage with enough clarity to be able to be present for the experience itself. And because these moments will arise, it's great to be able to connect and to be able to really remember it. And then that's what goes back to the storytelling and how the music emerges. Like, this is what we mean by this. We're literally storytelling the experience itself to some degree, you know?
Nice.
Skies, watch me spread my wings. mixed welcomes the past. The river is round the sky, panning like a hungry dog. Eyes peeled open wide, razor sharp instruments. Bearing for attack, fuel ladies of the night. Your life is within his hands. Instead of scalp in your abdomen, for a living autopsy. Disembowel the butchery, killing on the brain, lunatic of the night. Waits for his victim, dwelling for the tainted blood. Active theme, macabre term, octopus pun. Something harlots of the night. Now you're gonna die. Left with an empty mind. Is your answer to death?
Starting to amp it up a bit there, guys. That track, Hobbs, Angel of Death, Jack the Ripper. Classic Australian metal. Before that, a single from the mighty Tiger Driver of Melbourne. That was Eternal. And second up in the set there, we had Southeast Desert Metal, the Australian Aboriginal heavy metal band. Those guys are reigning from a remote Indigenous community called Santa Teresa. That track was called Eagle. And we kicked off with the hard rock / metal band Tungsten, with a single from their self-titled album, Addict of Pain. Those guys are a hard rock / metal band from Perth, Western Australia. They've made a name in the local music scene with their unique brand of rock, the catchy rhythms, the soulful vocals, and the killer leads combined to leave the crowds headbanging for more. We'll be hearing more from those guys in later shows. And if you liked what you heard there, guys, go check them out on the socials, follow them on the tube, all that stuff. As far, they've released an EP titled Legacy, and of course, their self-titled album, Tungsten. Continuing to amp it up here on the Thunder Down Under Front Row Radio.
What's the word? Big face.
Yeah, so I mean, it's Australia's so diverse. So it's as far as favorite gigs, you know, they're oftentimes the ones where it's like pouring rain and the crowd is still chilling with you, or you know, like you get these where someone comes up to you and goes, "Hey, that song, you know, what happened to the Duke?" That, you know, person comes up and says that song or that moment that we, you know, those become some of the best ones. And then of course you can't deny the ones where we're like in Alice Springs and we're looking at the stars and we're playing on a stage.
Or you're in Monty's Lounge and then there's almost a riot and they knock over the PA.
Or we're in on the edge of the desert in one of the hottest places in the world, you know, 300 kilometers away from any road or anything like that. Just, you know, in these places that are so rare and precious to get to in under the open sky. So we've played on stations. We've played in mines.
Yeah.
Like in the underground. Like we play Stoner Rock. Like people go like, "Oh, we're in the underground." It's like, well, we've also actually showed up to deliver riffs underground.
Yeah.
You know, so
that's so cool.
Well, at times like something that comes to my mind is like Port Macquarie when power got cut out to the stage and everyone packed in around us like a big scrum, and we all started singing a cappella the songs together.
Yeah.
There was like 50 people just
Yeah.
singing.
So you just never know what's coming next.
Yeah.
And that kind of improv. But you showed me a photo the other day that was a remote area.
Mount Isa.
Yeah. And you were saying
park.
how tight that wasn't a massive crowd by any means, but like they were just so devout and so appreciative.
I mean, we were so appreciative. We imagine here we are, you know, floating in the space that has all of its own incubation of culture and whatever's happening there. And these guys brought us into their lives and took us on board into that experience. And of course, we reciprocate with that instantly through the music. That's again goes back to how the stories emerge and stuff.
Yeah.
And that experience in Mount Isa was one about showing up. And recognizing that we do need these resources. Yeah. We play guitars. They do have strings on them, you know? Yeah. And so I can appreciate that the copper mining industry is important and we need that. Okay, fine. Let's do it. Let's find the best ways to do it.
Yeah.
And then you end up in these communities where these folks are living right under the mine stack itself, exposed to the toxic nature of the industry itself.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that we're advanced enough to be able to come up with a way for that not to be the case. However, you know, to the extent that we can, we're going to show up to these places. We're going to show up wherever we need to, where people are, and we're going to deliver riffs. And I think we did that 2, 3, 4 times. And then, you know, at one point you turn around, you see that photo and you go like, we're growing up together.
And you see a different side of the community that is kind of pigeonholed, isn't it?
Yeah, we're growing up together and we get the privilege of them inviting us in to be able to make a record of that.
Yeah.
And then we carry that story down the highway. Yeah. And we share it. And I feel like that's a part of the cultural exchange, you know, that is the Death by Carrot experience.
Cool.
down the aisle.
Here's your statue, Mum.
Oh, what for the love of God is that?
It's a statue you wanted.
What? No, it's not, Kim.
Yes, it is. It's a statue of little baby cheeses.
Little baby cheeses? Oh, little baby Jesus, Kim, Jesus. Oh, Jesus.
I spent hours assembling that.
Oh, and what about my shoes, Kim? You're hopeless.
I am not hopeless.
Oh, my shoes, the statue, what else can go wrong?
Joy to the world, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs
And the thunder down under.
everything you can say. At least there's a spelling on this thing is so just. My brain is so sick and confused, and my sickness that is previously stated. It's me, at least it was spelling on you. I'm so fucking bad.
This is Ethan from Snakes, and you're listening to the Thunder Down Under on Front Row Radio.
Just like I'm proud to be, I never left you. A lifetime and counting. After they begin you, I throw it back to your plan, arresting every last word. When I got it, I'm Emphysema. And in your heart, I'm all that you are. This is a simply correct. For you I cannot get it. I could not give a fuck about you. This is a simply correct. For you I cannot get it. I could not give a fuck about you. Could not give a fuck about you. Something you can feel it, become you to be you not feel as I take you not feel as you die. Watch as I mean you can feel it, become you to be you not feel as I take you not feel as you die. Watch as I mean you can feel it, become you to be you not feel as I take you not feel as you die. Watch as I mean you can feel it, become you to be you not feel as I take you not feel as you die. Watch as I mean you can feel it, become you to be you not feel as I take you not feel as you die. Watch as I mean you can feel it, become you to be you not feel as I take you not feel as you die.
Couple of tracks in that segment. involving the very talented multi-instrumentalist from Tasmania, Ethan Shaw, with the second track being by Van Diemen, in which he's the drummer. That track was called Immovable. And the second of Ethan's handiwork was a track from his studio-based project, Snakes. That was titled Sickly Caress, a single from their 5-track self-titled EP. In Snakes, Ethan composes all the music, plays guitar, drums, and bass. A super talented guy and a great friend of mine. Shout outs to Ethan Shaw. Go and check out Van Diemen and Snakes on all the major streaming platforms. In the mix there, we also chucked in some Bean Flipper with their track It's Only Life, and of course, Aggression, The Thickening. No doubt a couple of Australia's most iconic metal bands. Might chuck in one more little ditty before we announce the winner of this month's Random Listeners Draw. This is the Brickfist Bushrangers from Tasmania coming at ya on the Thunder Down Under Front Row Radio. Righto, y'all know what time it is. It's time for the announcement of the winner of this month's Random Listeners Draw. Before I do it, guys, I'm just going to explain a couple of things about it all. To be eligible to potentially win, you must be following the Thunder Down Under on Facebook. You must be living in Australia. This is to assure that the postal costs don't blow out. And of course, you've got to listen because I randomly announce it in each month's show, as I'm about to do now. And this month's winner is Alice Cooper of Sydney, Australia. Alice, if you're listening, DM me on Facebook, Kane Moose Knuckle Vella. Swing us your postal details and we'll have a pretty little prize package on its way to you in no time. So guys, a massive shout out to all of the artists that have contributed to that prize pool as far. So much appreciation for you guys. Always open to donations to that cause. So if you are an artist, guys, and would like to get on it, contribute to that cause, spread the love, spread your music, get your name out there, reward our loyal listeners. DM me on Facebook and I can swing you the postal details to send anything you might like to donate. Stickers, coolers, shirts, hoodies, CDs, beanies, any kind of merch, any size donation, big or small, it all goes into pretty little packages and goes out to our loyal listeners. Guys, don't forget, a new installment of the Thunder Down Under goes live on the first Sunday of every month at 6:30 p.m. AEST, and then repeats every Sunday for the month. So you got plenty of time to tune in and potentially win that prize. Congratulations again, Alice Cooper of Sydney. I hope to hear from you soon. On we march with some Psychroptic, straight out of Tasmania. This is Cold, and you're on the Thunder Down Under Front Row Radio. Righto guys, this next track is an old school death thrash crust metal band from Sydney, Australia. These guys are called Blood Trails. Check it out.
having us. We do have a few things that we're working on. You know, we're trying to finish up our album Hearts Parade, which has been recorded across the whole country, and that's expected to come out July 10th.
Yeah.
So we're kind of a couple steps away from finishing it, but if you do want to, you can get a sneak peek of it right now on our SoundCloud. If you look up Death by Carrot on SoundCloud on our profile there and look up Hearts Parade, there's a playlist, and those are all the rough bounces of the record in progress, and we update it regularly regularly as we're working on it. So we're not trying to withhold any of it. I've already performed this material, and there's live versions of it floating around, and a lot of folks have been, like, hey, how do we get the actual studio recordings? And, so what we've got available right now is just the road cuts, and that's what we're going to be putting out in a more official way on July 10th. So that's something to be looking out for. But other than that, we're going to keep doing the Infinity Loop, and we'd love to be back here in Tasmania next year around the same time.
Nice.
So,
maybe a little bit earlier.
Yeah, maybe a little bit warmer.
Hit that peak time.
That's right.
Well, we'll be here next year.
Sweet.
And maybe it'll be nice to see your journey again when we next meet. And we might go through another few questions for the listeners. And thanks very much for taking time. Have a chat with us. And we look forward to seeing your progression and the album.
Sweet.
When it's,
thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Cosmo.
You're an absolute legend.
Cheers, Casey.
Pleasure.
All right, guys. Thank you. that was Disembowelment Excoriate. Onto our last track for the show, guys. Death by Carrot, Wicked. Cheers for tuning in on the Thunder Down Under Front Row Radio. Show there. That was another track from our featured band, Death by Carrot. That one was titled Wicked. Don't stress, guys, if you missed it tonight. The Thunder Down Under reruns every Sunday from 6:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, with a new show going live on the first Sunday of every month. Artists, keep those submissions coming. Listeners, keep on tuning in and keep your ear out on each show for the announcement of our monthly listeners prize draw. Catch you next Sunday, eh? We at the Thunder Down Under and Front Row Radio would like to acknowledge both the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the original custodians of this land. You've been listening to the Thunder Down Under, the All Aussie Alternative and Metal Music Showcase.